Top issue. Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safe Communities, next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
WMAL News at 6. Good morning, I'm John Matthews. Some parents of students at a high school in Sterling were likely shocked to receive an email from the principal Tuesday with this news.
In the last 21 days, 4 students have overdosed here inside Parkview High School. 3 students needed Narcan. 2 of those needed CPR. All cases involving the potentially deadly drug, fentanyl.
It's acute. Having that many in one particular high school really is a cause for concern.
For the past 3 weeks, the school had not sent out a notice to parents until today.
7 News reporter Megan Clark, there were at least 3 other overdoses involving Parkview students that took place off campus. A second D.C. carjacking suspect's been arrested in the case involving an off-duty federal officer who shot and killed a 13-year-old suspect in Penn Quarter over the weekend. It turns out the alleged accomplice of that teen, Bernard Tony Jr., is himself a preteen, 12 years old. He was arrested after a 2-day search and is now charged with armed carjacking. Asked about the rise in carjacking cases and the fall in the age of suspects, Mayor Bowser yesterday sounded a familiar refrain.
I think that children who commit crimes have to have consequences.
D.C. police have a murder mystery to solve. A body was found inside of a trash can in Southeast. Police say the victim had been shot, but they have not been able to identify the remains or say how long he'd been in the trash can, which was found in the Fairlawn neighborhood near the Anacostia Freeway. The body was found when a person helping to search for a missing teenager spotted a heavy stick across the top of the can. When he moved it, he saw a body part. The victim in the can is not the teenager that's being sought.
He's on the wrong side of the road. Okay, going the wrong way on the toll road from 495.
We're learning more, but not everything, about a reported abduction that led law enforcement officers to chase a Hummer from Ashburn to Tysons on Monday afternoon. A chase that ended with the driver striking several vehicles, then bailing from the Hummer, only to try and carjack 2 other vehicles before an officer finally tackled him. 44-year-old Joseph Daniels now being held without bond, charged with a lot, including carjacking, reckless driving, driving without a license, and felony hit and run. It also turns out the Hummer he was driving had been stolen back in March and repainted. Police have not said whether there was an actual abduction in this case. With Halloween behind us, the lighting of the National Christmas tree cannot be far away.
Folks have the opportunity to apply for the lottery and see if they get tickets to come to this event.
Chelsea Sanders with the National Park Service. And what are your odds of winning this lottery?
I think there's about 100,000 or so people that apply. And in last year, I think we had about 12,000 come. So it is definitely quite the lottery.
The National Christmas tree is open to the public along with the Pageant of Peace following the official lighting on November 30th. Barbara Britt, WMAL and WMAL.com.
Checking your money, the Dow futures down 134, NASDAQ futures down 68. Sports, the Rangers blow out the Diamondbacks 11-7. That takes Game 4 of the World Series and a 3-1 lead for Texas in the best of 7. It could clinch its first ever championship tonight. The Commanders trade away their top 2 defensive end, Montez Sweat to the Bears, Chase Young to the Niners for a pair of draft picks. The Nationals bringing back a fan favorite, Gerardo Parra, will be their first base coach next season. Up next, traffic and weather on WMAL.
It could be information to change your life forever. Or the Something You Should Know podcast could just be something interesting.
Herb Cohen is one of the all-time legendary great sales trainers and negotiators. And he has some advice that will help you negotiate better. Make the other person feel superior and smarter than you. Care, but don't care too much. If you don't like the deal, walk away and see if the deal doesn't get better instantly.
Something You Should Know, wherever you listen.
Upgrade to a new walk-in shower from Long Baths. Call now to get your free estimate today.
For Mervis Diamond Importers, this is Ronnie Mervis. You won't need a checkbook when you visit Mervis Diamond Importers, so leave yours at home. That's because at Mervis, we treat each client as an honored guest. We'll give you an entire diamond education so you can make your own intelligent choice. Then we'll show you the world's finest diamonds. You'll be so impressed. You'll see more diamonds than you thought possible. Nobody has a collection of certified diamonds which could remotely match ours, and each stone is perfect. You have my word. We'll even encourage you to look around town, to check everywhere else. We're so confident of our quality and value, we know you'll be back. At Mervis, there is no sales pressure and no tactics. We simply offer the best diamonds money can buy for less than you think. Mervis is the only genuine diamond importer in the nation's capital. Mervis Diamond Importers. Mervis means more diamonds, much better quality, and the most value. Financing is available. Go to mervisdiamond.com to learn more. For an appointment, call 1-800-HER-LOVE. Nobody pays retail anymore. Why should you?
This report is sponsored by Ashley, America's #1 home furniture store.
Ashley's Black Friday sale begins now, and it's your chance to beat the crowds to Ashley's best Black Friday furniture deals. Save 20% off all furniture. Plus, Ashley pays your sales tax. Plus, no interest financing at Ashley. Visit homestores.online for participating locations near you.
WMAL traffic and weather. Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Virginia 95 northbound through Dale City to the Occoquan slow. 395 hang on at the 14th Street Bridge. It's the right lane blocked with an incident. So if you're coming in from Boundary Channel, stay to the left to get by. And as you merge off the southbound George Washington Parkway, slow merge to get you onto the 14th Street Bridge as well. Arlington, water main break closing northbound North Glebe Road, just north of 50 Arlington Boulevard at Cathedral Lane. 270, it's the volume delays southbound past 85, heading through Urbana toward Hyattstown. Now from GarageDoorRepair.com, the WMAL Stormwatch 7 forecast.
Our high today only 52 degrees. Clouds now giving way to sunshine, but the winds are going to be picking up, gusts up to 30 miles per hour, so wind chills this afternoon in the 40s. A freeze warning overnight, lows between 27 and 34. Tomorrow we'll climb into the lower 50s, sunny and 61 Friday and nearing 70 heading into the weekend. I'm 7 News meteorologist Eileen Whalen.
Right now it is 40 in Springfield, 37 in Rockville, 42 at Reagan National. I'm John Matthews on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Now
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
6:07, first day of November. Thanks for joining us here on O'Connor and Company. We're going to get you where you need to go. You might even be a little smarter and happier by the end of it. Coming up at 6:35, Cal Thomas will join us. 7:05, Ann Miller, mother of a young freshman in high school, football player, guy, who is now forced to share a bathroom with a girl. Locker room, in fact. 7:35, Amy Riccardi running for school board in Loudoun County. Maybe she'll fix that problem. 8:35, Adam Credo of Washington Free Beacon. Talk about the plan to put some Iran sanctions. I thought we had sanctions on Iran.
That's so.
Actually, we do have sanctions on Iran. The president is just ignoring them.
Right.
Because reasons and stuff.
He loves Iran.
Yeah. That's Julie Gunlock. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we're joined now by Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safe Communities. I mentioned earlier, Sean, actually, real fast, because I know that you're hyper-focused on the crime problem. I said I was shocked this morning waking up and not seeing a whole blotter full of violent crime on Halloween night, and I said maybe there was an increased police presence. Somebody on X social media platform said, first time I've seen in 14 years where I live, bike cops were patrolling the neighborhoods and a deputy in an SUV was patrolling the neighborhood last night. So there was obviously an increased police presence last night because of the crime. It shouldn't have to be that way, Sean. We shouldn't have to have cops working overtime on Halloween night. It should be, our neighborhood should be safe enough for trick-or-treaters.
Absolutely, and more than that, we should, thank you first off for having me, but we should have consistent enforcement, because the idea that we're playing whack-a-mole where we just pick a random night of the week and flood the zone is not a successful or sustainable way to enforce the law.
Right. And please, nobody say anything. Tell our elected officials that every night is a trick-or-treat night. Right. And then maybe we'll fix the problem. Well, I know you'd like to begin fixing the problem in Fairfax County by getting rid of Commonwealth's Attorney Steve Descano. What's the plan this election?
The plan is we are running a write-in campaign for Ed Nuttall. That's Nuttall. That's 2 T's, 2 L's. And Ed is the candidate who ran as a Democrat in the Democratic primary in June and was defeated by about 8-9 points. We had a coalition of Republicans, independents, and, of course, lots of Democrats come out and support Ed there. But we were swamped. They particularly banged us on abortion, because abortion is the #1 issue in all prosecutors' offices in America, as you well know.
God.
It literally, and in Loudoun County, Buddha Bibarai has a close race against the former Commonwealth's attorney in the early 2000s. Bob Anderson is running against her. So Buddha has put out a very strong campaign. She's working her tail off. Of course, she's campaigning on the number one issue in Loudoun County for prosecutors, and that's abortion. She's putting out mailers, which, of course, funded by the Working Families Party, which is funded by George Soros. And those mailers are, of course, banging on abortion because, again, the carjacking, the murders, the domestic violence, that is all second fiddle to the number one issue here in America, choice, at least for the Democrats. So what we're doing right now is running a write-in and giving people an alternative to Steve Descano here in Fairfax.
Yeah.
And we just launched a 5-figure ad buy on Facebook and social media to promote Ed. And we're getting signs out today. And we're going to keep putting out the message that people have a choice here. And Ed obviously has a lot of support amongst Republicans. Not enough came out in June, but they can come out now.
Yeah, Sean, if I can just... I think people who maybe aren't following this closely need to understand there's no Republican alternative, right? I mean, so I think people listening to this might go, oh, there's Republican, but write in Ed Nuttall. No. This is it. Descano is running unopposed. So your only option is to write in Ed Nuttall. Why wasn't there a Republican? Because, on Twitter, on X, rather, I'm seeing a lot of criticism. Why wasn't there a Republican? But no one wanted to they tried, right? The sort of Virginia GOP tried to find someone. And so it really is Ed Nuttall or Descano. These are the two choices.
Absolutely. This is your choice. There is no alternative. I can't speak to why there wasn't an alternative from the Republicans, but here is where we are. I mean, you got to make your decision. Do you want Steve Descano, who is running technically on the ballot unopposed, or do you want somebody who is better? Ed Nuttall is a Democrat, but Ed Nuttall is a law and order Democrat. He believes in what prosecutors believed in for a generation, which was that you prosecute and enforce the laws as they are. And unfortunately, you have a radical in there who, if we do not write in Ed, will win once again and will give us 4 more years of this sort of reign of incompetence and ideology instead of doing their job.
And Sean, Ed Nuttall sort of paid a price for this, for challenging Steve Descano. Wasn't he recently kicked out of the Fairfax Dems?
Yeah, so Virginia doesn't have party affiliation. Technically everybody is independent, but you can join the party committee and you're actually a member of the party. So you signed up for the Costco Club. He and his wife were good members in good standing and participated in the Democratic Party locally for years. And they basically conducted a trial, like some kind of Trotskyite trial, and they threw him out of the party in this kangaroo court over Zoom, or maybe it was Teams. I apologize. They're Microsoft people. And and Brian Graham, who's the chairman of the Fairfax Dems, was like, we had to do it. We had to do it because he didn't denounce the write-in campaign because it was started by victims. It was actually started by the parents of somebody that Steve Descano steamrolled and let the offender out for 3 years who hurt their daughter really badly. And these people started it without Ed's permission, without a thing. They just said, we need an alternative. And then Ed, for failing to denounce it and tell these victims to go shove it, they kicked him out of the party because they told him, you have to resign. Ed said, I'm not going to resign. I'm not going to commit suicide so you don't have blood on your hands. And so they kicked him out of the party on a Zoom meeting. It's absurd.
Well, he's better off. Honestly, Sean, I mean, the only way to answer your question, Julie, the reason why the Republicans didn't put anybody up there is because they thought that the voters in Fairfax County were so repulsed by the idea of a Republican that they would only vote for an alternative Democrat. And so they put all their eggs in that basket.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, Steve Descano is the Democratic Party in Fairfax County. That they've made their choice. This is the direction they're going. Ed Nuttall should stand up and say, I no longer want to be a part of this organization. I no longer want to be a part of this group because the Democratic Party has gone so far off the cliff in Fairfax. Honestly, the best thing for him to do is say, you know what? Y'all may hate Republicans, and my old Democrat Party, I had many intellectual differences with Republicans, but now Republicans are actually the sane party in Fairfax. That's the only way we make real change. But in the meantime, we got to write him in. And are they going to do one of these things, Sean, where if you don't cross both T's in Nuttall properly, they'll discount it? It's like if you write Ed Nuttall and only have one L instead of 2 L's, will they say, well, we're not sure who they wanted, so we're going to disqualify that ballot?
Well, I want to tell your voters Nuttall, but as long as you get the spirit of Ed's name correctly, so Ed with one T or one L will still count. Virginia has relatively liberal write-in laws, unlike what happened in 2006 in Alaska, where if you didn't get Lisa Murkowski's name correct perfectly, the ballot didn't count. By the way, Lisa Murkowski won on a write-in. Nick Freitas won in Virginia on a write-in only a few years ago. Write-ins win, but we have a little more liberal here. But if you write Sheila Nuttall, because that is not the spirit of Ed Nuttall, that does not count. So that gives you a sense of standard. But write-ins do win. They do win in Virginia in recent memory.
Yeah.
And we have a shot here
Let's
because
do it.
people are sick and tired of this.
That's right. And anybody but Descano doesn't count, sadly. I wish it did. But Ed Nuttall does count. No
don't
expletives.
Write expletives. Don't write anything Soros. Don't write any of those things down.
All right. So on this All Souls Day, it's keeping for us to declare our fealty to the spirit of Ed Nuttall. Get that out there, Nuttall. Sean, thanks for joining us, sir. Always good to talk with you.
Thank you.
Sean Kennedy. It's 6:15 WMA.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
You've seen these videos, I'm sure, of people tearing down these posters, these flyers of missing. They call them missing and kidnapped. They're hostages.
They're hostages, yeah.
These are mostly children and young women who have been taken hostage by the Hamas terrorists, and if they're still alive, they're in these godforsaken tunnels under Gaza. And people all around the world, and certainly here in the United States, have been putting up these posters of these individuals. I caught myself, I was driving behind one of those billboard trucks, the rotating billboard signs that just kept flashing them. I followed the truck past my destination because I wanted to keep looking. You cannot turn away. And you've got to focus on the innocence.
And yet people are ripping these down.
People who are, we're just supporting the Palestinian people. No, if you're ripping down the pictures and the information behind a hostage that's being held right now, you're protecting the terrorists.
You're
sorry.
pro-Hamas.
You're
pro-Hamas.
There's no two ways about it.
I mean, you are pro-rape and murder and beheadings and burning.
And everybody like our State Department and all the intellectuals that write at think tanks in this town who like to, huff and puff and say, well, it's a very complicated situation. I have no tolerance for them. There's nothing more simple than this. This is good and evil. And so enter the New York Times. The New York Times now intellectualizing and writing in defense of those people, or actually in the New York Times benefit here, they're just asking questions, man. And here's the headline: how posters of kidnapped Israelis ignited a firestorm on American sidewalks. You see,
at least they say kidnapped.
The posters ignited the firestorm.
Yes.
Not the scumbags who were ripping them down.
Yeah.
And look at this paragraph. Removing the posters has quickly emerged as its own form of protest, a release valve. And
release valve.
A provocation by those anguished by what they say was the Israeli government's mistreatment of Palestinians in the years before October 7th and since the bombing of Gaza began.
If you don't understand what that means, the Israeli government's mistreatment of Palestinians in the years before October 7th is 100% an excuse for the targeting of civilians, the burning of people alive, the raping of women, the murder of people in those civilian towns.
Right.
This is unbelievable what they are doing.
And here's the New York Times jumping on board saying, well, this is just a release valve for people tearing down the posters. But now, wait, I thought it couldn't get worse. Look at this one now. This is from dailydot.com, which is a liberal website rag. Are posters of Israeli hostages creating awareness or baiting people into getting canceled for tearing them down? It's like a trap, they say. Posters are being used. I think people are looking at the fact that they are so one-sided about these missing people. Of course we're one-sided.
What are they
about the missing people?
What's the other side?
What's the other side?
What is the other side?
Well, I'm not pro-kidnapping, but they have a point. Seriously, that's what
Larry,
they're. And you have to be an intellectual journalism school graduate
yes.
to have
Aaron
no
Burnett,
morals left.
Aaron Burnett, and over on NBC. Yeah, last
Aaron
week.
Burnett is
Burnett.
CNN, I think.
I'm sorry, CNN. She talked about those tunnels. where these kidnappers are being where these kidnapped Israelis are being held.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh, these tunnels are nice. They have air conditioning. They have medical facilities. Right. They have beds. They have all sorts of sort of conveniences." And I mean, this is how this is how the media is characterizing this, that these people have been kidnapped and brought to a spa.
You know what? As usual, I want to thank them for being so morally bankrupt and so wrong about something so fundamental and clear, because it honestly, it helps amplify what we do here every morning. So keep it up, because people know better, and they're rapidly migrating to where the truth, facts, and where morality still lives. It's 6:22 now. D.C., we talked about the crime problem in D.C. just now with Sean Kennedy. Yesterday, they put out a notice. They put out Facebook notices and emails to people in certain neighborhoods. Patrick Brennan, who was a former Hill staffer, he's sort of think tanky guy, conservative. Yeah. He highlighted this on social media. He got this email from the 1st District Police Citizens Advisory. On October 29th, there was an attack on H Street with a machete used as a weapon. October 29th. This is 2 days ago, right? Ooh. A machete. The individual was arrested, and the USAO requested that the person be held. A judge thought otherwise and has released the individual back in the community. In an attempt to keep the community safe, I think it's prudent in this case to alert residents that there could be another attack on a victim and others passing by. Random guy
look out for that machete.
Yeah, look out for a guy attacking people
with a machete. You're just walking to CVS.
And a judge in D.C. decided, yep, you're free to go.
Yeah, he was just showing off his sword collection.
Literally attacked people. The arrest was made at 1311 H Street Northeast. And now this person is out. With his machete again, I assume. Well, maybe they kept the machete, and he'll just go get another one.
Yeah, and meanwhile in D.C., it's impossible to get a gun to protect yourself.
Have a gun to protect yourself.
Yep.
Big knives that will kill you.
I bet that mace will work.
No. Cal Thomas is coming next. Keep it here. It's O'Connor and Company.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:36. It's O'Connor and Company on this Wednesday, first day of November, charging into the holiday season with gusto. Coming up later in the program at 7:05, Ann Miller. She's the mother of one of those young men on a football team in Loudoun County who now has to shower with a young woman, identifying as male. 7:35, Amy Riccardi is running for school board in Loudoun County. And coming up at 8:35, Adam Credo, who's got great reporting on Capitol Hill about Middle East policy, Iran sanctions, all that stuff. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock. Good morning,
morning.
Julie. Joining us right now is Cal Thomas. Cal, thanks for joining us, sir.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yesterday, Christopher Wray faced some questioning on Capitol Hill, and he said, yeah, boy, it's time to really worry about domestic terror attacks. We could have Hamas or Hezbollah or other Iranian-funded terrorists walking amongst us right now. Wow. Now's the time to worry. Maybe the time to worry was a little while ago there, Cal Thomas.
Yeah, well, duh. I mean, if you've got an open border, for heaven's sakes, if you've got tens of thousands of gutaways, if you've got a director of Homeland Security, if that isn't a joke, Mayorkas, who can't even tell you the names or the nationalities of anybody who has come in, then you're probably going to have a terrorist attack. Let me tell you, if there is a terrorist attack between now and the election, Biden is finished, Kamala Harris is finished, Republicans ought to be taking over the White House and both houses of Congress. This is an absolute outrage. It is an abandonment of the primary responsibility of the President of the United States to keep America safe. I was just stunned by this testimony, but not really that surprised given what's been happening all during the Biden administration with an open border.
Yeah, and also during that hearing, Senator Josh Hawley was really compelling. The call is coming from inside the House. There is a pro-Hamas official in DHS, and Mayorkas wouldn't even address it. And he said, I am not allowed to talk about HR issues. You're the head of DHS. And yet they have this pro-Hamas official within DHS, and he wouldn't comment on whether she's been fired. He said she's been dealt with or put on leave. It's just outrageous that these people are officials.
It's called infiltration,
Yes.
Julie, and it's not just that one at DHS. There are reports, and you read them in the Washington Times. You don't read them in the Washington Post,
Right.
about infiltration at many levels of government and many other institutions around the country, including, as we've seen, on our university campuses. This is a very great strategy. I mean, if the Germans had used this, if the Japanese had used this during World War II, we might have had a different outcome. I just think that there are people in this administration who really don't like America. They want to flood America with all kinds of people who don't love America either, and just want what they can get and take and take from us. Because remember, Obama said he was going to fundamentally transform America, but he never said from what to what. And Biden has said the same thing.
Yeah. Cal, if I could keep our focus on the Biden administration, Kamala Harris has reinvented herself yet again. The reboot of Kamala, rebooted more than an old IBM XT computer in 1986. She was on 60 Minutes, and she was asked a very simple question. If for some reason Joe Biden doesn't run for re-election or isn't on the ticket next year, you would think you'd be the heir apparent, and yet everyone's saying it's going to be a free-for-all. They are throwing all these other names. Why do you think that is? And instead of actually addressing the question, she said this.
First of all, I'm not going to engage in that hypothetical because Joe Biden is very much alive and running for re-election.
I mean, Cal, that's an odd answer, isn't it? No one said he wasn't alive. Is there something we should know?
It reminds me of the Frankenstein movie. He's alive! He's alive! He's alive! Yeah, I mean, when you have to say that the president is alive, I think you got a problem there.
Yeah,
Or it reminds me of the movie Dave. You remember the movie Dave, where the presidential lookalike? Maybe they need somebody like that, somebody who looks like Biden but has a brain.
Well, if you look at certain corners of the internet and social media, there already is a body double for Joe Biden. It's someone wearing a mask, so that could very well be happening right now without the benefit of Kevin Kline as part of the casting process.
I think I saw that on Halloween last night, one of those guys walking out. Except instead of trick or treat, we're getting trick or trick.
You just said, obviously, God forbid a terror attack occurs, and you said that would be it for the Democrats and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But even without that, what's your assessment of the presidential sweepstake now? Because we're basically a year away from Election Day.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a prophet or the son of one, but this business in New York with the Trump kids going to testify and Trump himself on his properties and whether they were valued properly or not is really chump change compared to what's coming in Georgia and with Jack Smith, the independent counsel. Granted, all of these are Democrats, and I think there might be a little more credibility by the public if at least there were some Republicans involved in this in the prosecutorial process. But if he's convicted, and especially if he's sentenced to prison, I mean, all bets are off. I don't know what in the world's going to happen. I think it's interesting that Nikki Haley is now tying in Iowa Ron DeSantis, but she's still at 16% with Trump over the top. So it's hard to say. Ask me in a year, and I'll have a clearer answer.
Are all bets off? I mean, do you think that the people who are supporting President Trump right now would be dissuaded from that support should he get convicted? Because I think most people think that, as you just said, these seem pretty politically motivated, and any conviction he gets will be appealed. So it's not like he's going to be behind bars. He can, and there's nothing unconstitutional about somebody being president if they've been convicted of a crime.
Oh, I think he would want to pardon himself. Now, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
But the Constitution clearly puts no limits on a president's presidential power. So I think that's the scenario. It's sure going to be interesting. I hope I live through the next election. There's plenty to write about.
Cal Thomas, how dare you even suggest such a specter?
Well,
he's the author of A Watchman in the Night, and you've got to stick around long enough to give us the sequel. So thank you, Cal.
Thank you very much, guys.
It's always good to talk with you. I like it when he drops the mic.
I know. Click.
Yeah. 6:48 now as we charge along here on this Wednesday morning, first day of November. As you just heard us mention with Cal Thomas, Christopher Wray was on Capitol Hill yesterday. He's the director of the FBI.
But as I said a few moments ago, on top of the homegrown violent extremist and domestic violent extremist threat, we also cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil. We have kept our sights on Hamas and have multiple ongoing investigations into individuals affiliated with that foreign terrorist organization.
I want to know if the same resources expended on parents who go to school board meetings or Catholics who attend traditional Latin Mass, if they're spending more money, less money, about the same amount of money to investigate them than suspected terrorists connected with Hamas and Hezbollah. Because as far as I know from Christopher Wray's public statements over the last several years, his main priority and main focus has been the former, not the latter.
The main purpose of Christopher Wray and the FBI and frankly, every head of every agency in the U.S. government is to keep Americans safe. They have taken their eye off the ball. We are unsafe, and I'm so angry about that.
No, counterterrorism was used to go after the Russian, the Trump campaign and Russian collusion. That was their counterterrorism unit's focus. Senator Rick Scott asked Director Wray one of the fundamental questions, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? How about, is America safer now?
Is the United States safer from foreign terror threats today? Are we safer than when Joe Biden took office, from the day he took office?
Hello.
What I would say to you is that
It doesn't even matter what the answer is after that.
That pause.
Yeah. That tells you everything.
That pause.
That's an ad right there.
That's an ad.
That's an ad right there. That defeats Joe Biden.
And you did
next
not
November.
hold that.
Nope. That was exactly what happened in real
let
time.
That go.
Josh Hawley with Mayorkas.
She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic.
You know what? This is really good, and there's not enough time because it's a couple of minutes worth. I want to get to it. We will get to it. We got to move it to a little later. But first, here's Rick Scott, again, this time with Secretary Mayorkas.
Can you say that Hamas, Hezbollah, or other Iran-backed terrorists are not in the U.S. currently after possibly illegally crossing our southern border?
Senator, let me assure you that anyone who poses a threat to our national security or our public safety is an enforcement priority of.
No one believes him. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, was on the House, asked about whether, also in the Senate, was asked if any of the aid given to Gaza was used for the October 7th attacks. As you know, Trump stopped giving aid to Hamas when he was president. Biden reversed that and said, fund Hamas.
There we go. Yep.
In May of 2021, I traveled to Israel after the 11-day war. I met with Prime Minister Netanyahu with his national security advisor. They briefed me and my team on the fact that every humanitarian aid dollar, every foreign aid dollar that goes into Gaza is controlled by Hamas. They either direct it, they tax it, or they divert it. They even take pipes intended for the water system for civilians and turn those into rockets that are aimed at Israel. We've seen Hamas's own videos demonstrating this. So I'm going to come back and ask you, can you guarantee that U.S. taxpayer dollars weren't used in October 7th attack?
What I can guarantee is that we take every possible precaution to ensure that these resources are not diverted.
That's a no. He can't guarantee it because he knows what we all know, and that is that the money that Joe Biden, your money that Joe Biden gave to Hamas was in fact used to murder innocent people on October 7th. Next election day can't come soon enough.